Nerdrotic.com.
We are a few days away from the very first trailer for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power from Amazon, and the vandalization of J.R.R. Tolkien's work has only just begun. We got a little bit of Nerdrotic breaking news. From Variety, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit film and gaming rights are up for sale exclusive. You'll have to forgive my voice. I just came off a live stream when this news broke. I promised a video, and here it is. Low tier and all. Hollywood is about to stampede into Middle-earth an array of movie and merchandising, gaming, and live event rights to Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and other titles from author J.R.R. Tolkien are coming up for auction, and now the Saul Zaentz company has decided to sell its Tolkien holdings. It's very curious why they decided to sell it, and the timing's a bit curious, but maybe it isn't, because again, we are a few days out from that trailer dropping, a trailer I have seen, and while I can't judge what the general public is going to think of it, because the normies don't know much about this story, hell, most Tolkien fans don't know much about this story. You would have to be a scholar, and apparently the scholars aren't even going to be able to figure it out because they're making up new characters. So the Tolkien Lord of the Rings stock could go up or down. I'm suspecting it will go up because we haven't seen the series itself. But again, I've seen the trailer, and let's just say the stock hasn't gone up with me. Now, there is somebody I'd like to thank publicly for seeing that trailer, but I can't do that right now. In a very unrelated comment, I would like you to consider subscribing to my good friend Az at Heel vs. Babyface. He is approaching 300,000 subscribers. He's a very good dude. He's my co-host on The Real BBC and Friday Night Tights, and he creates great content. Now, on to the story. Who is Saul Zaentz? Well, he was a music producer, a music mogul. He bought some of the rights back in the 70s. The article goes over that, so let's see if it's really that cut and dry when it comes to the films, because I know that's what you and I are concerned with. Let them make games or whatever based on the book stuff. Hell, I'd buy it. But as far as remaking The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, well, that's a very tall task. That's like remaking Gone with the Wind. That's like remaking Star Wars or Jaws. It's just something you don't do. It's like remaking The Godfather. It's unthinkable. Of course, all of those films will eventually be remade, and hell, maybe they have remade Gone with the Wind, and I just didn't know that. But when it comes to Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy in particular, that is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. The Hobbit, well, it certainly can be improved upon, but I don't think that can be done in this current era. Zaentz company has hired AFC Investment Banking to handle the sale process, which is unfolding this week as bankers make the rounds of the logical Hollywood buyers. The Tolkien properties are projected to fetch at least $2 billion. I'm guessing more, and I'm guessing Amazon, of course, is first in line because they're the ones who can really afford it right now, based on recent high valuations for top-tier IP and content producers. Representatives for Zaentz company and AFC declined to comment. The timing of the sale process is not accidental. Amazon is set to premiere its long-awaited mega-budgeted TV series rendition of the enduring Lord of the Rings saga, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, on September 2nd, the anniversary of Tolkien's death. Amazon is at the top of the list of prime candidates to pursue the additional rights now held by Zaentz. And again, it's not that cut and dry, or I think Amazon would have pulled the trigger already. Why wouldn't they want to remake The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings? That's something I suspected in my last video, which you can check out right here. And as far as Lord of the Rings going to Disney, well, this is what the author thought of Walt Disney. J.R.R. Tolkien thought Walt Disney was a cheat and found his movies disgusting. He was determined to never let Disney touch The Lord of the Rings. There have been other adaptations and attempted adaptations over the years, but only one hugely popular studio never touched The Lord of the Rings: Disney. The Zaentz company holdings encompasses rights to exploit Lord of the Rings, I think that's a proper term, and The Hobbit properties in film, video games, merchandising, live events, and theme parks. theme park would be pretty cool. It also includes limited matching rights should the Tolkien estate decide to make movies or other content based on the 2 compilations of Tolkien's writings that were published after his death in 1973, The Silmarillion and The Unfinished Tales of Numenor and Middle-earth, which seems to maybe confirm that Amazon doesn't have the rights to the Silmarillion, so I'm not really sure what they're adapting. It's very confusing. Warner Brothers also maintains some film development rights to The Lord of the Rings through its ownership of New Line Cinema. New Line had massive global box office hits and Oscar wins for the greatest trilogy of all time. And of course, Warner Brothers last year announced plans for an anime theatrical feature to be produced with New Line and Warner Brothers Animation, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, which I am actually kind of looking forward to. But it's understood that in the Zantz company's view, substantial live-action film rights reverted back to them last year in part because Warner Brothers, America's dumbest company, had not been actively developing new Lord of the Rings and related content, live action content. Again, we're talking about the company that has the rights to the entire DC catalog. They have Henry Cavill wanting to play Superman, a trilogy that would be an instant hit, and they're like, nah, let's make Superman a Latinx girl. That development plus the anticipation for the new Amazon series was enough to convince Zantz Company that the time was ripe for a sale. Warner Brothers declined to comment, but it is believed that the studio and Zantz Company are already at odds over who controls what when it comes to The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit's rights. The most important part about this whole deal is the film rights and the distribution rights and the freedom to distribute and make whatever the hell you want, which have been the subject of extensive litigation over the years, and I'm guessing this is going to hamper the sale just a little bit. This is a good thing because we've already seen what happens when the corporations get their clawed demonic hands on our beloved intellectual properties. And I say our, yes, because they wouldn't be popular. They wouldn't be worth billions if it wasn't for that built-in audience that they're paying for, which is you and I. Saul Zaentz, who died in 2017, bought the rights to various Tolkien properties and titles in 1976. He even bought the rights to a television show, but it couldn't be longer than 8 episodes. And that's how the Tolkien estate was able to take advantage of a loophole in this agreement to deal directly with Amazon to get The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. But this creates another problem that we'll get into in just a moment. In the early 2000s, Zantz Company sued Warner Brothers and New Line over its share of profits from the Jackson movie trilogy. Jackson also had to sue them as well. The Tolkien estate and publisher HarperCollins sued Warner Brothers multiple times over profits from The Lord of the Rings and the 3 Hobbit films. So why is this all ramping up now, you might ask? Well, we did recently pass the 20th anniversary of The Fellowship of the Ring, one of the greatest films ever made, and Warner Brothers, who owns New Line Cinema, did absolutely nothing with it. They didn't put it back in the theaters. I would have spent all weekend watching all of them twice, and I know a lot of other people would have too, and considering how much money Warner Brothers has lost this year, they probably could have used it. That being said, I think there's the 20-year rule. I think nostalgia is kicking in. Also, there's the Amazon series and also the death of Christopher Tolkien. I think a lot of things were being blocked by him, rightly so. This is a fantasy series. All Tolkien fans want is something, as Tom Shippey says, as Tolkienian as possible. Respect the lore. Don't put any messaging in from the right or the left. Any modern messaging at all would derail the entire series. It is a fantasy. It is supposed to be English mythology. And if you make that, then you're going to have a lot of fans. If you don't, then, well, that's the risk you run when you try to buy your way into a fandom. Now, it all remains to be seen. Everything rides on the rights to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And it looks like if you buy these rights, it comes with some litigation. So maybe we won't have any companies lining up. Or a company that isn't Amazon could obtain the rights and remake The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and do their own version of the Silmarillion in direct competition with Amazon. It would be a total shit show, and it would be highly entertaining. Now, this brings us to the problem I mentioned earlier. What exactly is Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, a prequel to the books, the Peter Jackson trilogies, or is it its own thing? Well, having seen the trailer, it looks like a very inclusive, a very diverse Amazon project that is not connected to anything, which leads me to believe that maybe if Amazon does buy these rights, the fix was in all along. They're still waiting on government approval with MGM as far as I know, so we'll all find out. You're all going to find out about the trailer on Super Bowl Sunday, and you'll see what I've seen, and we can all talk about it then. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, thank you for listening, and remember, not all those who wander are lost. Ciao.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.